Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is a bunch of Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Good evening, everybody. Glad to see that you guys wanted to stop in and spend some time with us this evening. As always, I am humbled and amazed that you've chosen to do so, because there are plenty of better things you could do than listen to me blather on about whatever's pissed me off this week. So that being said, let's go ahead and speaking of glad you guys could show up, let's go through the panel. Kingpin, how you doing, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Always appreciate it.
Oh, no problem, man. You're always welcome. Roll call. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
No problem. And special guest tonight hasn't been around in a while. The modern anti-federalist. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. I know I don't get out much, but here I am. Glad to be here.
Hey, that's all right, man. You're always welcome anytime. If you're on my email list, pop in anytime you want. I don't care. That's great. And if you can't stick around, hey, have a good one. That's great.
Yeah, right.
Out in the chat, we got Stealth Hunter, Tactical Pickle, Calaveras 32 Special, Rich White, D-Temp, Caleb Popejoy, Seven Wonders. How you doing, sir? Don Self, I don't recognize that name. Welcome to the show. Hopefully you enjoy what you see. Warsaw Patriot, good to see you, sir. Glad that, as always, Mateo's 1371. Is that Mateo 674 as well? I don't think I've ever seen that one before. Anyhow, welcome. Glad that you guys wanted to spend some time here with us tonight. Got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to go ahead and get into it. Recently, this past week, the Ohio House passed what some are calling a Stand Your Ground bill. It is not, in fact, a Stand Your Ground bill. It is, in fact, basically an extension of the Castle Doctrine. Adam Everhart, hey, how you doing, buddy? Glad you could stop in and see the show. Okay, yeah, I thought that was Mateo 674 by a different name. Awesome. Anyhow, this is a piece by Jim Irvine from the Buckeye Firearms Association. It was posted on their website on 4 p.m. on Wednesday, November 14th. House Bill 228, Fixed Burden of Proof, Concealed Carry Modernization, sponsored by Representatives Terry Johnson and Sarah LaTourette, has passed out of the Ohio House by a vote of 65 to 32. Representative Johnson thanked those who worked directly with legislators over the last 2 years to pass the bill, including Buckeye Firearms Association, Ohioans for Concealed Carry, BFA Board President Jim Irvine, the NRA and BFA board members Sean Maloney and Linda Walker. Before it was passed, the House defeated an attempt by a Democrat representative to amend the bill to insert gun control provisions desired by Governor Kasich. The Concealed Carry Modernization Bill has been debated extensively for over a year, and key provisions have been discussed for almost 8 years in the legislature. If enacted, the bill would correct Ohio law on burden of proof. Currently, the federal government, U.S. territories, and 49 states have the burden of proving someone committed a crime to convict them and deny them their rights. The same is true in Ohio in almost every situation. This change simply makes Ohio like every other state, and prosecution of someone who wrongly claims self-defense like every other criminal prosecution, innocent until proven guilty. Simple stuff, and the most important aspect of this bill. What this is trying to say, and does a terrible fucking job of saying it, is that currently in Ohio, if you're asserting that you used force in self-defense, it is upon you to prove it, instead of upon the prosecution to prove that that is not the case. This bill would fix that and shift the burden of proof to the prosecution like it should be. Let's see. It goes on to say this bill would also eliminate the duty to retreat from some sections of code. In Ohio and many other states, a person attacked in their home or car may defend their life. But in Ohio, there are duties of the crime victim if they're in their own driveway between their home and car, or basically anywhere else. Eliminating the duty to retreat will make the standard for defending one's life uniform and not dependent on where the victim happens to be when they are attacked. It is important to note that it does not change the standard of what constitutes a deadly force threat or what constitutes a legal use of deadly force in self-defense or defense of another. And that is the key difference between this and a quote-unquote stand your ground law, is that this bill does not offer any immunity from prosecution, et cetera, et cetera. All it does is say that you don't have to run away before you defend yourself. Let's see. It also adds a requirement that hands must be in plain sight unless impractical for license holders during an official stop by police. There are times when complying with officers' instructions in the law are impossible to do at the same time. So what they're saying is, here in Ohio, you're required to have your hands in plain sight at all times and required to follow the instructions of a police officer at all times. If those two things contradict, you could be prosecuted. So what they're saying is, now that if this bill should pass the Senate and get approved, et cetera, then you're not liable for prosecution if the police officer directs you to do something illegal, because you don't have to constantly have your hands in plain sight now. Now you can follow the officer's directions without breaking the law. It eliminates the requirements of places that allow concealed carry to post signs prohibiting concealed carry. Yes, current law is that insane. It would prohibit public housing from denying tenants their right to lawfully possessed firearms. It would provide for a safe harbor for a spouse or other unlicensed individual driving a car that another person has let the firearm in. Currently in Ohio law, if you go to the bank, let's just say, and the bank has their lobby posted, and you can't legally enter carrying a firearm, or like a post office or whatever. If you leave a firearm in the vehicle, now, and your wife is in the vehicle, then if she doesn't have her concealed carry permit, she's committing a felony. This would fix that. It would eliminate the requirement for license holders to carry a second form of ID while in possession of a firearm. In other words, you have to carry both your driver's license and your concealed carry permit. Currently, this would eliminate the need to carry the driver's license. You could just have your concealed carry permit. It increases penalties for people illegally buying a gun to sell to a prohibited person. And it modernizes Ohio's definition of a shotgun to match federal law and allow for possession of guns that are specifically approved by the BATFE, such as the Mossberg Shockwave. Currently, we can't have that here. It's taken almost 23 months to get halfway through the process. The bill now moves to the Senate, where it will need committee hearings, a committee vote, a full Senate floor vote. Then, if there are any changes, it will go back to the House for a concurrence vote before moving on to the governor. Any bills not enacted before the end of the year die, and the entire process must start over again. Basically, it goes on to pat themselves on the back, et cetera, et cetera. So, what everybody here in Ohio is freaking out about this being a stand your ground law isn't actually a stand your ground law. It's basically an extension of the Castle Doctrine, and it fixes some problems that we have with concealed carry in our laws here in Ohio. There was an amendment on the floor that would have strengthened it and made it into a stand your ground law. However, Ohio politics being what they are, that did not go through. So, yeah, we have what this is. There are a lot of people that are angry about that. But the way I see it is, I'd rather have some progress than none. We can always go for full stand your ground later. That's how I see it. Anyway, let's see. Out there in the chat, I say, well, Warsaw Patriot does not seem to be very supportive of this bill. Says, Bill, if it gets passed through the Senate, it could destroy this nation. This is just the Ohio stuff. Hopefully it never will. You got to be dumb to let this bill slip through. Are you talking about, hey, Warsaw Patriot, are you talking about this Ohio bill, or are you talking about this 7115? Okay, 7115. Yeah, we're going to talk about that one here in a little bit. Yeah, okay. I wondered what this. I was wondering why there's such hate for a little bit of concealed carry modernization here in Ohio. Let's see. John Brown Production says, I lay my wallet and gun on a dash, leaving my hand on the steering wheel in all traffic stops. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. So, you guys here on the panel, you have any input into this Ohio thing? Whether it's the stand your ground light is a good idea, or should have gone full blown, or is it better to all or nothing, or to get what you can?
Do you think John Kasich will sign it?
I think John Kasich will veto it. He has already said he'll veto it, but currently in the House, there were enough votes for a veto override. And if it passes through the Senate with enough votes for a veto override, then Kasich can go pound salt. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, the reason that I asked is that's what I was reading in the link that you sent about, this is what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And right at the beginning, it said, it didn't have the gun control measures in it that John Kasich wanted.
Yep.
No,
he's already said that he'll veto it, but doesn't matter if we have the votes to override. Yeah,
that's my point. Is please understand that these Republicans are not on our side either. It's great that we've got a Republican Senate in Washington. We've had a Republican majority for 2 years now, and I've been alive for 41 years. And I know one thing is you can't trust the Democrats and you can't trust the Republicans either. So we got to make sure that we're not, sitting resting on our laurels thinking that these Republicans are going to do anything for us, because they're not on our side.
No. And, that applies locally. It applies nationally. It's across the board. These past 2 years, we as gun owners, in hindsight, maybe we should have done more somehow to put pressure on our elected representatives to do what we elected them to do, because they had the House, they had the Senate, they had the White House, and they managed to get shit done. And now that opportunity's gone. It seems like the Republicans are too busy trying to be Mr. Nice Guy to seize the opportunity and push their agenda forward. Well, I don't know. Maybe they are pushing their agenda and they're just not pushing ours. Ghost, welcome to the show. Glad you can make it.
What's going on? Thanks for having me, man.
Hey, no problem. Always welcome, man. Just talking a little bit about the so-called stand your ground legislation that passed through the Ohio House.
Right. It's a good first step.
Yeah, it is. That's what I think. It's not exactly a stand your ground. It's more an extension of the castle doctrine. In other words, you don't have to
flee. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. No duty to retreat. Any place that you are legally allowed to be, you can defend yourself without having to run first.
And I might be mistaken, and I was reading something about it, and I'm not going to say I've read all of it, but I want to say that it was not necessarily a stand your ground, but you aren't under litigation if you decide not to flee. Is that kind of how Correct. It's worded? Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely right. It also fixes something that's horribly egregious, in that currently in the state of Ohio, if you assert self-defense as the reason why you used force, then the burden of proof is on you to prove that it was self-defense.
Oh, really?
Instead of the burden of proof being on the prosecution. This bill would fix that.
Okay. Yeah, I was listening to a little bit with Roe the other night, and they were talking a little bit about it. And I jumped in kind of as they were getting done with it. But like I said, it seems to be a good first step. I guess anything that's, giving more rights to the gun owners and all of that is a positive step. So I guess we have to take this as a victory, don't we?
Yeah. Our governor, lame duck John Kasich, has decided that if it passes, he will veto. But as I said earlier, we have currently enough votes in the House to override the veto, and if it passes in the Senate with enough votes to override, then Kasich can go pound sand.
Do you think, and I don't know how Ohio politics plays, but do you think that knowing that there probably are enough votes, do you think that he would, as a lame duck, veto it and make them do that? Or do you think that he would just let it go?
Nope. Kasich has been throwing a temper tantrum ever since he lost the presidential primary. You know, he has allowed his true colors to shine through very, very brightly. And he'll veto it just to be a dick.
That's a shame, because I thought that, during the primary, there was a point where I kind of liked what he was saying economically. So it's a shame that, he got his panties in a wad.
Oh, yeah. He's been pushing gun control bills left and right and center ever since then. Yeah, ever since the whole thing in Parkland. He's been pressing the red flag laws and bump stock ban and pretty much anything else that he can think of that he thinks might get passed. He's been pushing it, which our legislature, being firmly Republican dominated, has said no, because they know though they won't get reelected if they do this crap.
Right. Well, I'm sorry for hijacking. I don't want to do that. Hey, what's up, Ro and Kingpin and Adam? What's going on, fellas?
Oh, living the dream. And hey, you know what though? Like I realize Kasich is probably gonna, say no to this, but I think the incrementalism that's a policy we should be pursuing overall. That's what the left has been done for. They have done that for decades to pass things they wanted to pass. Most of the gun control we've gotten is through small incremental steps. So to fight back, we need to take the same strategy, because people, think about it. If 4 years ago or 8 years ago, Obama had said, I want a single payer healthcare system, would have never happened. But now, because they've been just chipping away, little things here, little things there, they're calling for it. It's not radical anymore. That's a mainstream Democrat thing. So that's how we have to do it. Same principles, or same way to attack, but do it with what we want.
Yeah, I was talking with G the other night, and along the same terms, I was talking about, what if Ginsburg does retire and we're able to get maybe, another SCOTUS appointee, and maybe even a pro-gun SCOTUS. Now we've really got the tide to really kind of go after NFA, And I was really saying, hey, this could be something that the GOA, the SAF, NRA collectively, in the grassroots and the state level and local levels could really get behind. Hey, let's go after and repeal the NFA. And G said the same kind of thing. He says, yeah, it'll never happen. What we need to do is go after the 4473 first.
Yep.
Get rid of that. Then you go after suppressors, incrementally, like Adam said, incrementally, instead of going after repeal the NFA, let's go after piece by piece to where there's nothing left of the NFA. And I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's going to work. I mean, we need to, and I've been saying this for years, that we need to take that page out of the enemy's playbook and adopt that strategy. It's worked. That's how they're
good at it. They're good at it. There's no doubt. They're very, very good at it.
That's why I have such frustration with the all or nothing crowd, because generally when you call for all or nothing, you generally tend to get the latter instead of the former. Yeah. You get the nothing and not the all. However, if you take a little bit of progress here and a little bit of progress there, it's like in a football game. If you catch a yard here, you catch a yard there, before you know it, you're at the touchdown, as long as you keep that forward pressure up and keep that momentum. And that's what we do.
Yeah. And it's also like, people always say, try to reach attainable goals. Obviously the grand scheme is we would love to repeal the NFA. That's what we'd all would want, obviously. Yep. But if you make attainable goals, let's say, hey, let's go after the 4473 first. We all know that the 4473 is unconstitutional. Yep. Let's go after it first. Then you can go after suppressors, or you can go after SBRs. I think SBRs is probably the last thing that people really honestly care about. But you go after 4473, then you go after suppressors, then you go after SBR, and then what's left is nothing. But you're reaching attainable goals instead of saying, let's just repeal the whole damn thing. And I was one of those that say, let's just go after it. And he was like, great idea, but it'll never work. And after 2 hours, he had convinced me. I was like, you know what? That's perfect. Let's start with a 4473. You know.
Yep. And that has been, honestly, that has been the strategy that has been adopted here in Ohio by groups like Buckeye Firearms Association. You know, we have, on the one hand, we have the BFA, who is willing to tell, okay, we're not going to get this. Let's go for this instead. And on the other, we have groups like Ohio Gun Owners who want every damn thing right now. They're great for, you know, rousing the base and whipping up excitement in the gun owners. But, you know, legislatively, I think the BFA has a slightly more sustainable strategy in incrementalism. When we first got concealed carry in Ohio, it sucked. It was a horrible bill. It was complete trash and garbage. However, the important thing was, okay, we've got it. Now let's fix it. And so incrementally over the years, that's what's happened. And that's where this bill's coming in is it's continuing to fix it, and it's continuing to improve things, and it has been steady, and it's worked. I think that if we adopted that pose nationally, we might get a lot further ahead, a lot faster than what we are. But that's just my opinion. I could be wrong.
That's a good plan. I'm kind of digging the whole take it piece by piece. I think that's a strategy. Like you said, it's obviously been proven to work from the other side.
Yeah.
And let's not be too arrogant and to think that we can't borrow at least strategy. And I think that that's something, especially, I think you're going to start seeing some really cool stuff in the next couple of years. Obviously, now that the midterms are over, the 2020 election campaigns start. I mean, if you don't think it's starting, it's you're crazy. It's starting. And I think that the great thing we've got going for us is, and I know I'm going to have a little different opinion than others, and some people might get upset, and that's okay. I apologize. But, you know, I think that the House swinging to the left, we kind of saw that happening. I think if you're all realist, you kind of saw that happening. But we gained ground in the Senate, and if we're able to pick up Ginsburg's seat on the Supreme Court as well, that's huge, because now you're talking about 6-3 or whatever it is, or you know, it's not like we can afford to have one not be wishy-washy. But I think that now you're going to start seeing some legislation come through, and I know I'm going to be unpopular about this, and I said this kind of on my live chat. I said I'm a little. You know, I get a little frustrated sometimes hearing everyone calling for the 7115 and all. The boogeyman's not going to happen, guys. Even if it does get through the House, it's not going to get through committee and on the Senate. And I don't think now that the election cycle has started, there's no way that Trump ever signs that. Even if for some crazy reason the Senate does pass 7115, Trump's going to veto it because he knows there's not enough votes to overturn the veto. And even if it does, SCOTUS won't uphold it. So, I mean, you know, I want us to stay vigilant. I want us to stay on top of our congressmen, our senators, our governors, our representatives, state level. But try not to lose our heads right now, because I really am not really convinced that this is. Now, I'll say this. It's an incredibly it's a very well-written bill. There's no telling how long they've had that in a drawer waiting for Pelosi or someone to get Speaker of the House. It's been waiting. It was well written. It is very dangerous. It is legislation that could change the face of America. I'm just not convinced it's going to happen. Maybe I'm the minority in this.
Well, you know, that kind of is a great segue, because that's the next thing I plan to talk about was the.
I'm sorry. I'm not, like I said, I'm sorry. I just,
not a problem.
I've been getting fired up the last couple of days about this.
No, not a problem. Not a problem. Talking about HR 7115, for those of you that don't know what that is, it is the so-called 3D Firearms Prohibitions Act, even though it has absolutely almost nothing to do with 3D firearms, that has been proposed in the U.S. House. It was entered into the House on November 2nd, before even the elections were through. While we were all paying attention to that, they snuck this in there. It's not something that I expect is going to pass, just as for exactly the same reasons that Ghost laid out. However, there are some things in there that, you know, we were just talking about how the Democrats and the gun grabbers have adopted the strategy of incrementalism. They are famous for throwing out everything they want and then dialing back and settling for, okay, if we can't get this, and this, let's get this. So and that's what my fear in this is, because even though this bill, which I'm going to read parts of it to you here so that we can all know what we're talking about, even though this bill has pretty much zero chance of making it through the Senate and being signed into law by Trump, there are some things in here that they could slip into, like an appropriations bill or some other omnibus bill that has to pass. So, you know, we really want to keep an eye open for that strategy coming from the Democrats. So for those of you who haven't taken a look at the bill, H.R. 7115 is a bill, quote, to prohibit the sale, acquisition, distribution, and commerce or import into the United States of certain firearm receiver castings or blanks, assault weapon parts kits, and machine gun parts kits, and the marketing or advertising of such castings or blanks and kits on any medium of electronic communications, to require homemade firearms to have serial numbers, and for other purposes. Section 1, short may be cited as the 3D Firearms Prohibition Act. Section 2, do-it-yourself assault weapon ban. Notice how this is an example right here of how the Democrats, and that's just what I'm just going to go ahead and say Democrat, because there hasn't been a gun control bill put into the U.S. Congress that hasn't been backed by Democrats. So that's just, the Democrats are really good at seizing the narrative and framing the narrative and framing the debate by taking control of the language up front. You know, they invented the whole assault weapon thing, and you know, now they have invented a whole nother class of do-it-yourself assault weapons. So Section 2A, banned hazardous products. The following shall be considered banned hazardous products under Section 8 of such act: a firearm receiver casting or firearm receiver blank or unfinished handgun frame that, at the point of sale, does not meet the definition of a firearm in Section 921A of Title 18 United States Code. So basically an 80% receiver. And B, after purchase of by a consumer, can be completed by the consumer to the point that at which such casting or blank functions as a firearm frame or receiver for a semi-automatic assault weapon. Notice they've added the word semi-automatic to assault weapon, or machine gun, or the frame of a handgun. It also, let me see, doggone pages are sticking together. Okay. Also bans, let's see, as part of a do-it-yourself assault weapon, assault weapons parts kits, a machine gun parts kits. Says it prohibits you from advertising do-it-yourself assault weapons. In general, it should be unlawful to market or advertise on any medium of electronic communications, including over the internet, for sale any of the following. Calaveras 32 Special says casting or blank could be a square block of metal or poly. Yep, that's the whole point of this. They're making this net as broad as they can. Shall be unlawful to advertise assault weapons, receivers, or castings, 80% lowers, parts kits of any kind. It requires that homemade firearms have serial numbers. For those of you that don't know, if you have no intention of selling or transferring a homemade firearm, you do not currently have to put a serial number on it. What this says is that if this passes, that a person who has attained 18 years of age and desires to make a firearm or obtain it or unique serial number or other identifying mark for a firearm may request a licensed dealer to issue a unique serial number or other identifying mark for the firearm, which request shall describe the firearm involved and state whether the firearm will be or is a handgun. It treats the request as a transfer, and you have to go to a licensed dealer who will issue the unique serial number or identifying mark. And this bill also prohibits you from making a firearm before you obtain this serial number and have it recorded by the dealer. Let's see. Within 90 days after the person obtains a serial number and identifying mark for a firearm under this section, the person shall present the firearm to the licensed dealer who issued the serial number and identifying mark. On presentation, the licensed dealer shall verify that the serial number has been stamped on or otherwise permanently affixed to the firearm and that the firearm matches the description provided by the person when the request for a serial number and identifying mark was made. In other words, if you make a firearm, once you have gotten that serial number, once you've made it, then you have to go back and prove that, yep, you actually did make it and show the firearm to the dealer. Let's see. Within 180 days, the Attorney General shall, in consultation with licensed dealers, establish a system that enables the Attorney General to identify any licensed dealer who issues a serial number. In other words, they're going to keep records of it. So, which seems to me to be a de facto registration for homemade firearms. Now, in the chat, someone was talking about, Patrick says, I don't know about all you, but I don't own an assault weapon, so this bill is invalid since ARs are not assault weapons. Well, they take care of that. They take care of that loophole real nicely, because in the definitions, let's go over, because they define things. Well, redefine things in here. Ammunition feeding device means magazine, belt, drum, feed strip, or similar device, but does not include an attached tubular device designed to accept and capable of operating only with 22 caliber rimfire ammunition. An ammunition feeding device shall be considered detachable if the device can be removed from a firearm without disassembly of the firearm action. So basically, it defines a magazine as anything other than basically a Marlin Model 60 is what it sounds like. Anything, a tube-fed 22. The term assault weapons parts kits means any part or combination of parts designed and intended to enable a consumer who possesses all such necessary parts to assemble a semi-automatic assault weapon. Does that include sights? Does that include, I mean, it specifically will include forearms, handguards, grips, firing pins, anything. Trigger parts. Those are all parts kits. So they will ban that. Semi-automatic assault weapon means, here's where they got you, Patrick. A semi-automatic rifle or semi-automatic shotgun that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device, or a semi-automatic pistol that has the capacity to accept a detachable ammunition feeding device and any one of the features described in subsection B, which subsection B says, let's see, where is it? Special features of the semi-automatic pistol described in the previous section. Ammunition magazine that attaches to the pistol outside the pistol grip. Threaded barrel capable of accepting a barrel extender, flash suppressor, forward hand grip, or silencer. A shroud that is attached to or partially or completely encircles the barrel and that permits the shooter to hold a firearm with a non-trigger hand without being burned. So the forearm on the handguard on your AR pistol, yeah, you now have a semi-automatic assault pistol. A second hand grip, a manufactured weight of 50 ounces or more when a pistol is unloaded, or a semi-automatic version of an automatic firearm. So let's see, we have a Glock 18 that is an automatic firearm. So are all the other Glocks included as assault pistols then, and therefore banned by this? Sounds like it to me. So let's see. The whole point of this is that this is the whole, they're going to throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. And as Ghost said, I don't think this is going to pass. I think it hasn't a hope in hell of passing currently with the Senate and the White House in Republican hands. But as I've said, these people have for years adopted the strategy of incrementalism. So what they've laid out is, okay, this is what we want. Now, what are they going to settle for, and how are they going to get it? You know, are they going to attach this? Because remember, the House controls the purse strings. The House decides what's in spending bills. So, you know, Are they going to hold our military budget hostage to including some of these provisions in it? Are they going to hold the entire government funding hostage to include some of these provisions in it? They're going to pick a bill that we have to pass, and they're going to add this crap to it. And it's going to be, okay, either you allow some of this stuff in there and pass it, or you're not getting the rest of it. That's what I see. Am I wrong?
I think that they're going to definitely try that. I want to say that they're definitely going to try that. And I think that what you're going to see is what's the most dangerous thing in the world? It's a second-term president, correct? Because at this point, they've got nothing else to run for. They're done. Yeah. So not only is a second-term president, we got to get there first, get him reelected to be a second-term president, because I think that's when the fireworks are really going to happen. He's going to start doing stuff. He's like, I got nothing to lose. I don't have any more campaigns left in me. But I think that this campaign, if they try to do this in the next year and a half, 2 years before the 2020 election, I think you're going to see the one thing that people are annoyed by with Trump is his arrogance. But I think that actually plays in our favor in something like this, because he's not afraid to stand up and say, you want to hold us hostage with these bills, an appropriation bill for our budget or our military, then by God, you go for it, because it's not going to happen, and we will blame you in every way we can, and you're going to be the boogeyman. That's the reason why our budget shut down, our government shut down, our military shut down, by trying to attach these writers and all of these bills. You're going to be to blame. And I don't think they're going to be the ones that want to do that during an election cycle. That's just me. I'm optimistic maybe, but I think that Trump is truly one of those people that has the arrogance and the ego to sit there and say, try me. And I think that will probably win out in the end.
On the other hand, and
Sure.
I think you're right on that. But on the other hand, Trump has also shown a willingness to be flexible on the gun issue, i.e. bump stocks. So
yeah, I'll agree with that.
My fear is that Trump, being a negotiator and a deal maker, would be willing to play, let's make a deal with this.
Mm-hmm.
That's my fear.
And I would also say that if I would agree with that to a certain extent, but remember, he's now full-blown into campaign mode for the 2020 election. He can't afford to lose his base in his campaign.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think he would be flexible. I think a year ago, maybe. If they would have done this after October 1st in Vegas or February with Parkland, maybe so. But now I think he's full-blown into campaign mode, and he can't afford to lose his base right now.
Now, yes, but if he wins re-election and they try this, he would be more willing to make a deal then to get what he wants.
Well, I'll throw this one out there, and it's just popped into my head, so it's not like it's kind of just a devil's advocate type of thing. But what if the opportunity to get his wall fully funded and built is the swap? You give us this or a bunch of this stuff, and we'll give you your wall and all the money you want for it.
Or that's a dangerous proposition. That's a dangerous proposition, because that's legitimate.
Now, or the other side of the coin is, what if he says, give me my wall and I'll give you all of this? And I agree. I don't think it's going to happen. But the Democrats could offer him that, thinking he'll turn it down. Then they could be like, well, he doesn't want his wall. Or he could say, give me my wall. And the Democrats are going to be like, no, we're not going to give you your wall, because but that's just something to think about.
Well, I think that you're hitting a highway that could be coming to fruition, because, Pelosi has been very vocal in the last week or two, saying that the Democrats' top priority is gun control. I mean, she's been very vocal about bringing gun control as a priority for the Democrats in the House. Obviously, we know that right now one of the big pushes for Trump is the wall. So I could see that scenario at least being presented. I just don't think that Trump is willing to lose his base for a wall. I think that he'll figure out another way somehow. I hope. I just, who knows?
I would have to agree, because if you think about it, it's if he gives in and gives him the whole bill or half the bill or some of the bill to get his wall, he's not getting reelected. And
exactly
after he gets reelected, there's no reason to do that, just for the wall, when he could just fight for it the whole time, and start, throwing executive orders around and stuff like that.
And I don't think that's his style necessarily to compromise. I mean, and I also do think if a bill gets thrown his way, if he gets to his desk, he's going to sign it. He's done that before. He's gotten bills in the past where he says, like, I don't like this bill, but I'm going to sign it. It's your guys' fault, or it's your guys' problem. As far as actually fighting for us, it depends. Is his ego so that to where if you cross him, he's just permanently done with you and he'll just fight you to spite you? I don't know.
I think he's kind of proven that to a certain extent, on at least on some levels. He's proven that he's willing to do that.
Well, yeah. Look at Jeff
Sessions.
Look at Jeff Sessions. He's a perfect example.
Good. That's a great point.
Once you cross him, he wipes his hands clean of you, and he either gets rid of you or he makes you irrelevant.
You have to understand, though, that this guy is first and foremost a businessman. And that means, but when you're operating particularly at the level of business that he operates on, you must be a realist. You must be a pragmatist at your core, regardless of whether your ego gets in the way of some things. You have to be a pragmatist. And if it's a case of, if I do this, if I give on this and it'll get me what I really want here, because remember, Trump really, I don't think, gives too much of a shit about the Second Amendment. Not really. I mean, he says he does, and he does it as far as he can use it to get where he wants to go, but he really don't care.
He's probably never really touched a gun in his life.
Let's also remember that for years, he supported Democrats, and he supported everyone he could, both sides, whatever he needed for business-wise. But let's say at best case scenario, he's a moderate. At best case, he's a moderate. I think maybe economically and financially, business-wise, I think he probably tends to lean a little more conservative just because it's business. But he's a moderate at best. So it's not like he's a true conservative. He's not a true Republican that is, NRA all the way. He's his own guy, and that's the trump card. That's no pun intended, or pun intended, whatever you want to call it. But that's the trump card. He is a wild card.
Well, he did sign the omnibus bill, and that's like the anti-modern.
He had to, though. God, he had to, though.
Yeah, he didn't.
I know it was crappy.
He didn't have to. He could have been Trumpy and fought it, but I get, that's being a businessman and trying to get a deal in. And let's not also forget that he offered asylum to 2 million people when he first got elected. The Democrats turned it down because that was where he wanted his border wall, and he said he'd give asylum to, I think it was 2 million people. I'm not 100% sure. So that's not cool. And he got a lot of flack for that, but he didn't back off of it. So a lot of the voters that he was going to lose for giving asylum to people to get the wall, he was willing to take that bet.
Yeah.
Now, that could have very well just been him, playing 4D chess and knowing that the Democrats are going to turn down whatever he offered, so he could say, hey, look, I'm trying, and they're just being obstructionist. I don't know.
Can I weigh in on this real quick?
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ro.
So, hot off the press here, I understand that we can talk about Trump, all right? We can. Trump isn't necessarily the make or break. And this is why we tell you to vote in your elections so many times. Because when you don't put the correct people in place, Indiana just elected some guy, Jim Miller or something. Now he's trying to get to adopt what Washington has passed. Washington State. The same Bill Yankee and Sporting Systems fought against. What was that? 3169 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
So this guy wants to implement that here in my state. My state is a very pro-gun state. It's not the best, but it's a pro-gun state. When you don't vote for your legislators on the local and the state level, Trump plays a role, but when you put these other people in place, that how Joe Donnelly was here in Indiana, where he rolled with the punches, whatever was that flavor of the Kool-Aid, that's where he jumped on. That's what he took a swig of. And that's why he's no longer our senator, because everybody was tired of him, and we got Mike Braun. We can talk about Trump, and he's important. Don't get me wrong. He's important. but the legislators are the main thing. And if we don't put people that, turn to our values and our beliefs, then you're going to have things like this. Now, I don't know how much traction this is going to get in my state, but this is fearful because they're telling us they want to do the storage, and they actually want to come in your house and look what you have and how you store it. That's totally against everything. I don't want these people in my house. I don't want them to see anything in my house. It's none of their business. Trump plays a major role, but I don't put any faith in any politician.
Is Indiana a ballot initiative state?
That I'm not sure of.
Because that
could be big.
That's where we're going to have problems, because they were successful here in Washington State with this ballot initiative crap that they pulled. Places like Ohio, who does have a ballot initiative process. If you don't think they're going to try to replicate this in every single state that has a ballot initiative process, think again, because they're going to try.
Yeah, you're going to start seeing issues all over the place.
We have to be vigilant on that at the local level. You're absolutely right on that.
I'm not sure which state everybody here is from, but everybody knows that I'm from Maryland, and everybody knows that Maryland is one of the worst in the country. We're not the worst, but we're one of the worst. You take this bill, this HR 7115, or any of this other stuff that we ever talk about, and then you watch my state. And I agree, absolutely. I say it every single day. You've got to pay attention to the laws in your state. Federal law is hard to change. It's hard to make. It's hard to get rid of. State laws come and go, and it's easy to. We vote all the time. I know a lot of people who are very pro 2A, First Amendment, freedom is what just pro freedom. People who like freedom. We can all get together and each and every one of us vote every single time. We're way outnumbered here. We're not winning any elections here. So when you want to see, bad things happen with our rights, watch what's happening in my state and don't let it happen to your state. Please, everybody, pay attention to what's happening.
A red flag seizure in Maryland?
It was 1 month and 4 days after the law went into effect. The police shot somebody and killed somebody on a red flag seizure.
Yep. It was like on the word of his niece or something or one of it, or somebody. He
had a fight. He had some type of domestic incident, whether it was an argument or maybe he put his hands on the person. Nobody knows. The sister reported the red flag law. Now this was on a Sunday, and then whatever, I'm not too sure what day it was, but the articles all said it was on a Sunday. And then November 5th at 5 o'clock in the morning, the cops go knocking on his door. The guy doesn't live in a gated community where there's going to be a butler answering the door. I don't know about you guys, but cops bang on the door. They don't tap. They don't, hey, I wonder if anybody's sleeping. They bang hard on the door. And when you live in this guy's neighborhood, not that he lives in a bad neighborhood, but you all know what central Maryland is like. Baltimore isn't just the problem. There's a lot of bad stuff that happens here. He opens the door with his gun in his hand. Just like anybody else, common sense, somebody's banging on your door in the morning, I'm going to protect myself. Sees it's the cops. He puts his gun down. The cops say, we're here to give you this red flag thing. I'm not going to use perfect terminology, but you guys understand. And they start arguing. He picks his gun back up because I don't know if he was going to shoot the cops. I have no idea. Nobody knows. But he picks his gun back up, and the cop he was talking to started wrestling with him over the gun. The gun went off, and even the official police report says that the gun discharged. It didn't say that he fired the gun. It didn't say that he was aiming at the cop. In the struggle, the gun went off. The cop's partner shot and killed the guy. Yep. I mean, you're in a struggle with my partner and the gun goes off. I'm not going to let you hurt my partner. So the cop did what he did. Or her. I'm not too sure which one actually did the shooting. There was 2 cops on scene. The niece said that the sister called. And the niece said that the guy was harmless. There was no way any of this should have ever happened. He wouldn't have hurt anybody. Now, who knows what's the truth? I don't know. And these records are all sealed. You know, so only way I can figure out that the sister story came out and the niece story came out is a reporter asked them and they talked. But you can't go and file for this information. Like if you're a reporter and you want to go do a report on this, the court's not giving you any of that information. You know, it has to be subpoenaed and agreed by on a higher court before any of that, any details of this that are not in the local news or news can be revealed. So we don't know if the guy was beating on the sister and said that he was going to go kill her, or if he just said, "Hey, I don't want these mashed potatoes; they taste nasty." You know, we have no idea.
And
The
that's
problem with red flags is it completely goes away from due process, 100%.
stole the
And
words
look,
out of my mouth.
if you look up the red flag law, I did a video on it, and there's the bill and all that's right there on my page. You can look it up and read it yourself. Everybody considers our red flag law the most stringent in the country. And you can see, and I'm sure everybody else has had familiarity with hearing about it. It's going to be a very personal family member or a professional that can turn you in.
Yep.
That's not what our bill says. That's not what our bill says at all. It lists a whole bunch of people that can turn you in and explains it all pretty good. So,
Yeah. Angry family members and jilted ex-lovers. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
To run back on the topic, and I agree with Ghost because we talked about this the other day on Wednesday, and I agree with Ghost and Clover. I don't think this thing has enough legs to pass. But I said this the other night. They will take pieces of these bills, restructure them. At the Gun Rights Policy Conference, 5087, I believe, HR 5087, they restructured it. But they took pieces of the old bill and put it into this new bill that they're going to roll down. You think what was it, 7115 is bad. 5087 pretty much bans your guns. And the only thing you're supposed to have is a shotgun. That's it. Shotgun and a revolver. You have to be aware of what these people are doing. These bills that they're coming up with, these aren't coming out of thin air, guys. And the folks in the side chat, these aren't coming out of thin air. These bills have already been prepared. They've been sitting in a drawer, and they've been waiting to be implemented. Just like a plan. It's a plan of attack, and this is how they do it. I understand what all these guys are saying. It's never going to pass. It's never going to pass. But look, so they did the experiment in Washington. That passed. They did some stuff down in Florida. That passed. Now look, you got Maryland. That passed. They're going to take bits and pieces of these bills. It's not necessarily the whole bill itself. It's the bits and the pieces that you have to watch out for. And I'm on the same boat as you guys. This dude, Trump, is a lame duck. He hasn't done anything. The only thing he's done is through tariffs, which I'm fine with. That's cool. Great. He hasn't done anything for the Second Amendment. Nothing that I've seen. And the NRA sure hasn't helped it because they support these red flag laws that Kingpin's being restricted with. So if you think these giant organizations and even the GOA are going to bail you out, they're not. It's up to you. It's up to your state and local organizations to fight this, to fight these bills, and to fight the bits and pieces that they tear out of these bills to try and sneak it past us. You have to be vigilant.
Yep. Absolutely right, because that's what they're going to do.
Well said.
Little bit by little bit. Good call. All right, let's we're running really pressed on time. We'll go over a little bit because there's a couple pieces of good news I want to share before I get to the self-defense shout-outs. Up in Wisconsin, there is a company that's giving their employees, all of them, guns for Christmas. Employees handguns for Christmas from the Appleton Post Crescent on November 13th. Hortonville, a local business that produces glassware embedded with bullets, recently decided to give every employee a handgun as a Christmas present. Ben Wolfgram, who co-owns Hortonville-based Ben Shot, said the decision to give employees handguns as a gift was made as part of an effort to promote personal safety and team building. The business has 16 full-time employees, including several military veterans. But the business also had employees who had never fired a gun before, Wolfgram said. This is the first time the business has done anything like this. The business was started in a small garage workshop in 2015. Most employees were excited at the prospect of receiving their handgun, Wolfram said. Chelsea Priest, an employee, said she felt empowered by the gift, which she believes will help keep her safe. I've never been a part of anything like this, she said. At least 2 employees initially declined the gift, but are considering accepting it after taking a gun safety course the business had employees take before getting their guns. The national debate about guns was thrust back into the spotlight recently after the October 27th shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue and the November 7th shooting at a bar in Thousand Oaks. Only 2 months ago, a gunman wounded 4 of his co-workers at a software company in Middleton before he was shot and killed by police. Wolfram said he wasn't worried about workplace violence because his business has a small staff and all of the employees know each other well. For us now, we will have an entirely armed staff, he said. I think that's pretty good. So do I. I think that's great. It would be wonderful if my employer would give me a gun for Christmas. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I'm lobbying for it. We got 10% off, but we can't use it on firearms. So I'm crying.
You get 10% off, but you can't use them on firearms? So that sucks.
Firearms or ammunition. Nah.
Well, and I think Ro knows is a lot of times firearms, the markup for gun shops is maybe less than 10%. So I could, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them I know they don't make a lot of money on firearms. That's probably why they don't let you use it.
Yeah, that's why I asked. Is the markup that slim on that? But apparently it is.
Yeah, I'm telling you, how that place stays in business, I don't know. I'm just thankful I have a job, because if it was all about firearms, boy, I'd be jingling a cup and right next to the guy that rings that bell.
That's why they sell holsters and all that stuff. I think that's where they kind of make their money, hopefully.
Yeah. In other news, Washington, D.C. carry permits skyrocket after dismissal of good cause regulation. This is from November 14th. Washington, D.C. concealed carry permits are skyrocketing following the dismissal of the district's good cause restriction for permit issuance. On July 25th, 2017, Breitbart News reported that the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled that D.C.'s good reason requirement for concealed carry permit issuance is unconstitutional. The ruling was handed down in Wren versus District of Columbia. According to the Daily Caller, the district's Metropolitan Police Department confirmed Tuesday that 1,896 concealed carry permits were issued by the Metropolitan Police Department for the calendar year to date of 2018. That represents a 1,440% jump in the number of permits which were issued while the good cause restriction was in place. Good for them. I'm glad to see awesome freedoms breaking out in D.C.
Yeah, imagine that. You get rid of silly restrictions and freedom just comes right out and slaps you in the face. It's great.
Yeah, it's crazy talk, right?
Yeah, we should keep an eye on that and watch their crime rate and see.
Right. I mean, I bet you it goes skyrocketing.
Yeah. Well, since our government's in D.C., the crime rate will never go down because
I'm not so sure it can go any higher, can it?
All right.
No, I think it's awesome.
Continuing the theme of good news, I'm going to move into Roll Call's favorite segment of the show. We're going to talk about our self-defense shoutouts. For those of you who've never watched the show or who have never stuck around to the end, self-defense shoutouts are not me reveling in the death or injury of the bad guy. It is, in fact, me reveling in the continued life, liberty, and retention of property of the good guy, and celebrating the fact that they had the means, method, and opportunity to defend the same. First piece by WWAY News from November 15, 2018. Alleged armed robber shot by victims. Wilmington, North Carolina. A man who was shot and drove himself to the hospital faces several charges after an armed robbery at an apartment complex in Wilmington. Wilmington police say they responded to the 500 block of Steamboat Springs Avenue Wednesday night in reference to an armed robbery. The suspect left before officers arrived, but the victims were able to describe the man, later identified as William Earl Flint Jr., 22, of Weaverville. The victims told police that during the robbery, they were able to overpower the suspect and shoot him. Police say the suspect drove himself to Cape Fear Hospital for his non-life-threatening gunshot wound. Investigators determined the gunshot wound victim was the robbery suspect. Flint is charged with armed robbery, first-degree burglary, and second-degree kidnapping. Outstanding. Good for them.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
I always love a happy ending.
Yeah. No kidding.
I
Well,
always think like these things are always fun to me because even like when you hear other people talk about it, the good guy with the gun fires once, maybe twice. The threat is minimized, and then it's over. No pedestrians got hit. No little kids riding their bike down the street got hit. 15 bullets didn't go through somebody's window.
Right. That's the thing that a lot of people, the biggest misconception is they see movies and people spraying stuff on drive-bys. Those are not responsible gun owners. Those are thugs.
yep.
The responsible gun owner is going to take, because we know if we're going to take the responsibility to carry every day, then we know that one bullet too much sends you to jail. One.
Yep.
And we know that. And we take responsibility, understanding that, like you said, eliminate the threat, minimize the threat, and it's over. We're not going to sit there and empty 4 magazines on a guy. But people don't think that about us. They think that we're just going to, whatever we got, we're going to unload. No, most gun owners know exactly what we have to do and what we can't do.
Absolutely right. And to round out the show, South Carolina mother of 3 shoots home invader. I would have killed him if I had to. This is by Kathleen Joyce in Fox News. Ashley Jones, a mother of 3, shot at a man trying to force his way into her home. A South Carolina mother of 3 took action after she heard a man attempting to break into her home and shot him. Ashley Jones of Anderson County told Fox Carolina that she heard someone banging on her door early on Thursday. The mother said she called 911 and got her gun. She said she saw a man banging at her door when she peered out the window. I yelled, "I have a gun. I will shoot you. Get away from my house," Jones said. She said she used her gun after the intruder kicked her door in to come inside the home. Video surveillance outside her home captured the incident. So then he kicks the door in. As soon as he kicks the door in and tries to take a step in my house, that's when I shot him and he ran off, she recalled. Something just came over me. I got calm and my heart slowed down. The mother said she would have killed him if I had to, if the intruder tried to come inside her home. She said she was thankful that she had protection because she didn't think she could fight off the man. And that right there, folks, is the entire point of this. The whole point of owning a firearm for your protection is the fact that someone smaller, someone weaker, has the ability to fend off someone larger and stronger and in better shape. It's the great equalizer. They say that God made men free, and Sam Colt or God made men equal, and Sam Colt ensured they'd stay that way, and that's it. Anyhow, let's see. Because if I didn't have any kind of weapons, I don't know what I would have did. This guy was kind of big, she said. I wouldn't have been able to fight him off. I never thought I would have to shoot that gun ever, she continued. The Anderson County Sheriff's Office said the suspect was taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The suspect was later identified as Cecil Charles Parnell, 42, of Anderson, and he was charged with first-degree burglary and was booked in the Anderson County Detention Center, Fox Carolina reported. The woman who was with the suspect during the incident was not charged, the Anderson Independent Mail reported. Any mother is going to protect her kid any way she can, and that's what I did, Jones told WSPA. Good for her.
The greatest part of these stories, and it's not just this one, but it's a lot of them, is the fact that there is crazy, evil people out there trying to do harm to others and commit crimes. Not only do they get caught and charged, but they get caught and charged after they go to the hospital for a gunshot wound. Isn't that the greatest thing ever? I promise you they won't do it again. I promise you if this guy gets out of jail, the chance of him trying to break into someone's house are slim to none, because he's like, you know what? I've been through that. I don't want to go through another gunshot wound.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out to me about these kind of stories is the human experience. I've talked about it with my dad plenty of times, and it's harder when somebody has something that they care about, and we'll say our families. It's harder for the bad guy to come in and have success against the man defending his family, defending the things he loves that are true, than it is for the bad guy to take it. And you can look at World War II, as strong as Hitler was, as strong as the Nazis were, as strong as the German army was. they failed because they were doing their best to take from everybody. And the people who had something to defend stood and defended and defended and defended. And you can see that throughout human history. And that's what I love about the human spirit is come and take it. I'm not going to lay down and let you come and take it from me. If you want something from me, I'll give it to you. If you ask, I'll give you whatever you want. But you're not going to come and take anything from me or my family. And I don't mean my stuff. I mean my safety, my peace of mind, my freedom. And that's why I love these stories.
Yeah, you talk to people that are victims of break-ins. I'm not even talking about using a firearm, just break-ins. And what is the one thing that they say has been stripped from them? Not their stuff. Insurance and stuff can be replaced, but they've been stripped of their feeling of safety.
Yep.
And that's the big, like you said, it's the human element in all this. And the more people that take their own safety in their own hands will never be a victim. They might be a victim of robbery, but they'll never be a victim of feeling their pride and their dignity stolen from them.
Yeah. That's what I like when you see when YouTube or whatever, the little kid that's getting picked on by the real big bully, but the bully doesn't know that this little kid has been in karate class or judo class for the past 9 years. And the kid doesn't want to fight, and he doesn't want to hurt this big guy. The big guy won't leave him alone. And then the little guy gives him a spin kick to the face and puts him to sleep and then walks away. Make sure he's okay and then walks away. You know, I love seeing those when that's what I like. I hate tough guys. I don't like to fight. I've never been into fighting, but it never made me happier than when I fight a tough guy.
I think a lot of us are the, speak softly and carry a big stick types. I mean, there's always going to be the irresponsible, just macho guy who thinks he's awesome because he's got a gun. I mean, there's always going to be that guy. But I think most of us are probably a little bit more mature in that. Most gun owners, at least our community, especially the type of people paying attention to the show, that's who they are.
Yeah. And that's who we need to be. And speaking of the show, it's time to wrap it up. I got to get ready to go to work tonight. So I want to thank everybody for stopping by. Let's go ahead and go through the panel and see if you guys have anything that you want to plug. Any last words? Any final thoughts? Kingpin, what do you got for us, sir?
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure. I love a good conversation. And everybody make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Budget Guns and Gears Reviews.
Ghost, what do you got for us?
Man, I got nothing. Had a cool day today, but I really enjoyed it. I don't get a chance usually because I'm at work, whatever, to be on your show. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, guys, go support Budget. Like, subscribe, be a patron, all that stuff. Great job tonight, man.
Thank you. Roll call. Any plugs?
Yeah, I got a couple. First of all, I'd like to say thank you, Budget, for having me on your show. I greatly appreciate it. It's very fun. Go check out Roll Call 219 channel on YouTube, guntube.org, and Gunstreamer. I'm also on Instagram. You can see me there. I harass Cindy a lot. I just put another Instagram little short clip of annoying the shit out of her. So go enjoy that. Also, I will not be having a show the week of the 26th. That is my birthday week. I'm going down to Top Guns in Terre Haute, Indiana, and I'm going to go down there and do some filming, and that's where I'm going to shoot my brand new Glock 19 down there. And they said I could bring my own ammunition and throw some rounds through it. We'll see how that will go. And all you hunters out there in Indiana, please cover your smell. Be safe out there. Wear your orange. I hope to bring some food on the table. I can't wait for tomorrow. Thank you, Budget.
Hey, no problem. And last but not least, the modern anti-federalist.
Hey, sorry, sound acted up for a minute. Thank you so much for having me. Had a lot of fun. Yeah, if you're not subscribed to any of these other guys, they're all making some really cool content. If you're not subscribed to me, come over to the Modern Anti-Federalist. and sign up, hit that subscribe button. You can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Patreon. I've got I'm selling a sticker now, so you can support me there. Just find the little pig up in my little header, click him, and
got that.
And yeah. Well, actually, since Trey, since you got one, what do you think about it? Have you stuck it anywhere?
Awesome. I haven't. I literally just got it, so I love it. Though, I mean, who doesn't like a pig with a freaking, combat helmet on? I mean, who loves that? That's awesome. I got it from Pork Chop. I was like, oh, hell yeah, this is great. It's a great one.
Awesome, man. Thanks. Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. Thanks to all of you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate it. I particularly, you guys that haven't been here in a while, I really like to hear your views. You add a lot to the show, thanks. Out there in the chat, if you haven't subscribed to any of these guys, you should. They all put out great content, and they are absolutely deserving of your support. If you want to support my stuff, you can find me here on YouTube. Obviously, that's where you're watching me. I also post on gun channels. I post on Gun Streamer, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I just started putting content over on Cocoscope, COCOSCOPE. That's kind of it's a new platform that I found. You should really go check that out. They do not censor their content, so be advised you might find some not safe for work stuff over there. But I think that's also the saving grace of it, is that they don't censor their content like YouTube does. You can pretty much say whatever you want, and as long as it's not outright illegal or hardcore pornographic, and and you don't have to worry about getting deplatformed. So go check it out over there. As always, very thankful that you guys have decided to stop in and spend some of your precious time with us. It was, as it was pointed out earlier in the show by roll call, we need to constantly be on guard, particularly at the local level nowadays, with keeping our legislators' feet to the fire. Constantly be in contact with them, let them know what you want. Smoke signals, carrier pigeons, telephone, telegraph, semaphore, whatever you got to do, keep on them and never, ever, ever give up the fight.